Part 1, The Key She Never Gave Me. I still remember the way the light filtered through her kitchen window that morning. Warm, honeyed sunlight streaking across the counter, bouncing off the stainless steel, turning her into something unreal. Claire always seemed a little unreal. Like someone whose edges never fully settled in the room. Even after 5 years, I never figured out if that was a kind of magic or a warning. She was humming, barefoot, absently dancing around the kitchen island, pouring coffee into 2 chipped mugs we'd picked up from a roadside flea market. I was watching her from the doorway, holding the envelope I wasn't supposed to find. I hadn't opened it. Not yet. But the name on the front, James Carter, was written in her careful, slanted handwriting. Mine. And the return address wasn't ours. It wasn't even in the same city. That moment, frozen in the smell of roasted coffee and her quiet humming, should have felt like any other day. Instead, I felt the first pull of something unraveling. The kind of pull you don't notice until the whole thread is gone. "Morning," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "You look like you saw a ghost." I smiled. It wasn't real. Just didn't sleep much. She kissed me on the cheek, pressed the mug into my hand, and turned back to the sink. I slid the envelope into the back pocket of my jeans and said nothing. Claire never liked questions. She answered them like riddles. And I'd learned, sometimes painfully, that pushing her too hard meant she'd shut down, retreating into those parts of her I was never invited to. But that envelope burned in my pocket. I knew I wasn't going to be able to leave it alone. That night, when she fell asleep curled against me, I slid out of bed and went to the garage. I sat in the cold silence, the only sound my own breathing and the crackle of an old space heater I never got around to replacing. Then I opened it. Inside was a letter. 2 pages, typed. No greeting. No signature. Just a series of statements. I waited for you. Until I couldn't anymore. You promised me August. It's October now. Did he find out? Is that why you disappeared again? Tell me the truth. For once. I deserve at least that. My hands were cold, shaking. Not with rage. Not even confusion. Just that hollow, echoing feeling you get when your body knows something before your mind does. Claire had secrets. I'd always known that. But this wasn't some buried trauma she was afraid to share. This was someone else. Someone waiting for her. Someone she had promised something to. I reread the letter 3 times. Then I stared at the envelope again, this time noting the date. 2 weeks ago. She'd kept it. But she hadn't destroyed it. Why? When I came back to bed, I watched her for a long time. Studying the way her face softened in sleep, peaceful in a way I hadn't seen when she was awake. Maybe that was part of it. She carried her real self in sleep. In dreams. Not with me. The next morning, I didn't ask her about it. I folded the letter, put it back where I'd found it, tucked between cookbooks she never read, and went on pretending. That was easier. Safer. At least for a little while. But pretending doesn't hold forever. And 3 nights later, when her phone buzzed at 1:43 a.m. and she didn't wake up, I made the mistake of reading the message. It said, "I saw your car today." You lied. Again. And that was the moment I knew, whoever he was close. Too close. Part 2, The Name She Wouldn't Say. I sat up in bed and stared at the glow of her phone for a long time. The message was from a number not saved in her contacts. No name. Just 10 digits and the words, "I saw your car today." You lied. Again. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The phone locked itself after a few seconds, returning the room to darkness. Beside me, Claire stirred, let out a soft breath, then stilled again. I lay back down but didn't close my eyes. The next day I watched her more than I talked to her. Watched her skip the avocado toast she always made on Thursdays. Watched her check the front window twice in an hour like she was expecting someone. Watched her smile when she caught me looking, a smile too rehearsed to be real. Something was coming apart, and I had no idea how deep it ran. I could have asked her directly. But I knew Claire. She was a vault. If I confronted her without proof, she'd twist it. Cry, maybe. Say she was overwhelmed, anxious, tired. And I'd feel like the villain for even doubting her. So I played it differently. I waited. That weekend, she told me she was driving to Ashmont to visit her sister. We're going through some things, she said, fidgeting with her necklace the way she did when she lied. Family stuff. I might stay the night. Ashmont was 2 hours away. I nodded. Of course. I watched her pack, watched her choose her perfume carefully, linger in front of the mirror longer than usual. She wasn't going to Ashmont. When she left, I waited 15 minutes. Then I followed. I know how that sounds. Like I was turning into the kind of man I swore I'd never be. But you don't follow someone you trust. You don't follow someone if everything is okay. She didn't take the freeway toward Ashmont. She headed east. Toward the water. A little town called Havers Bay, population maybe 3,000. I tailed her all the way to a narrow street with worn-out cottages and wild hedges. She parked in front of one with a green mailbox and dead hydrangeas. She didn't knock. She just walked in like she belonged. I parked 2 streets away. Walked back. Watched the house from behind a fence, heart thudding with a dull, steady ache. 30 minutes passed. Then I saw him. He came out onto the porch with a cigarette and a towel slung around his shoulders. Mid-30s, unshaven, barefoot. He looked like he hadn't slept. And I recognized him instantly, though I didn't know how. It was in the way he held the door open. In the way Claire appeared behind him a moment later, barefoot too, laughing at something he said, placing her hand on his back like she'd done it 100 times. She kissed him. Not a kiss that belonged to someone hiding something. A kiss that said we've been here before. I stepped back from the fence before I did something stupid. My legs moved on their own. I don't remember walking back to the car. I just remember the silence. Thick, final. I didn't go home right away. I drove for hours. No destination. Just the sound of tires on road and the sharp sting of betrayal sinking in. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. Her side of the bed was still empty. She hadn't even tried to pretend she'd gone to Ashmont. And when I opened the drawer on her side of the nightstand, I found another letter. Folded neatly. Hidden under receipts and old postcards. It was dated March 5th, 5 months ago. This one said. He still doesn't know. Every day I wait for you to choose. But maybe this is your choice. Silence. I won't wait much longer, Claire. You can't live 2 lives forever. 2 lives. I sat there in the dark, letter in my lap, listening to the clock tick on the wall. And then something clicked. March 5th. That was the night she told me she'd had a panic attack at work and drove to a motel to sleep it off. I had held her when she came back, pale and shaking, said nothing when she cried into my chest and whispered, "I'm sorry, I just couldn't breathe." She hadn't gone to a motel. She had gone to him. And I had held her afterward. Held her like a fool. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came the next morning. When I pulled the drawer open again, the letter was gone. Claire had gotten home sometime in the night. And she knew. Part 3, A stranger at our table. She was in the kitchen when I came downstairs the next morning. The smell of eggs and rosemary filled the air, but it didn't feel warm like it used to. It felt staged. As if she knew I'd need convincing. She smiled at me over her shoulder. Coffee's ready. There was something different in her voice, lighter, maybe. Careful. I stared at her back, at the way she moved like nothing had happened, and tried to swallow the rising nausea in my throat. The letter was gone. I'd checked 3 times. I sat at the table in silence. She placed a plate in front of me. Her eyes met mine for a split second, then darted away. She sat opposite me and picked at her eggs. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked. I nodded. "You?" She smiled faintly. "Yeah." Ashmont was intense. My sister's still in a bad place. I might head back there next weekend. I stared at her. Just stared. If she noticed, she didn't show it. I was trying to hold it in, this storm of everything I now knew, but it was like trying to carry water with open hands. I couldn't unsee it. The kiss. The house. The letter. So I asked her something small, something measured. "Claire, do you ever feel like you're living a life you weren't meant for?" She blinked, her fork halfway to her mouth. "That's an odd question." I shrugged, trying to play casual. "Just been thinking lately. About how people can live one way, but secretly want something else." She studied me, then set her fork down. "Are you trying to tell me something?" I hesitated. The words were on the edge of my tongue. "Who is he? How long has it been? How many lies did you tell while I held you?" But I didn't say them. "Not yet." "No, I lied. Just thinking." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, if you're having some kind of midlife identity crisis, maybe wait until after breakfast." The moment passed. But something had shifted between us. Her guard was up now. Mine had been for days. That night, I waited until she fell asleep again. I went back to the drawer, hoping, maybe foolishly, that the letter had just been misplaced. It was empty. Not even the receipts remained. That wasn't all. Her laptop was gone from the desk. So was the small wooden box where she kept stamps, old keys, and her father's watch. I noticed the absence like you notice a tooth that's been pulled. You can't stop touching the empty space. She was cleaning up. Hiding whatever trail she'd left behind. The next day I took a risk. I drove back to Havers Bay, parked 2 blocks from the green-mailed house, and waited. No Claire. No man with a cigarette. But there was someone. An older woman, 60s maybe, in a cardigan and wide straw hat. She was watering plants in the front yard next door. I approached her slowly, with a neighborly smile. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm looking for someone who might live in that house." I pointed to the one Claire had entered. "A friend said she might be staying there." Woman, mid-30s. Dark hair. About this tall. The woman lowered the watering can. "You must mean Claire." My heart froze. "So she does live there?" "Well, she used to." The woman squinted at me. "Haven't seen her in over a year. Thought she moved away for good." I swallowed hard. "Do you know who else lived there?" She hesitated. "You her brother or something?" "No," I said quickly. "Boyfriend." She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle that didn't quite fit. "Then I think you should know, she wasn't alone here. There was a man. Tall, bearded. Moved in with her maybe a year before she left. I'd see them fighting sometimes. Loud. Real bad some nights." "What was his name?" "Jeremy," she said. "Jeremy Blake. He stayed behind after she left. I think he was hoping she'd come back." I didn't say anything for a long time. Then she added, "But she didn't." "Not really. He told me once she'd disappear for weeks. Said she had another life somewhere. Like she was always split in half." Split in half. 2 lives. 2 men. 2 stories. I thanked her, walked back to my car, and sat inside with the engine off. I should have left it there. Should have driven away and let the truth rest in that forgotten town by the sea. But instead, I searched the name. Jeremy Blake. And what I found, made my skin crawl. He'd been reported missing. 7 months ago. No leads. No body. Just, gone. Part 4, The Missing Man and the Mirror. The air inside the car felt heavier than it had any right to be. I stared at the cracked screen of my phone, rereading the article again and again, but the words never changed. Local man Jeremy Blake, 36, last seen March 12 in Havers Bay. Girlfriend reportedly left town weeks earlier. No signs of foul play. Case remains open. March 12. 7 days after Claire's so-called panic attack. 7 days after she'd come home and collapsed into my arms, crying into my shirt like she was drowning in something I couldn't see. And Jeremy, just vanished. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I drove to the water's edge, sat on a bench overlooking the dark, endless stretch of ocean, and stared at nothing. That's when the voice inside me, the one I'd been ignoring for weeks, finally asked the question I'd been afraid to face. What if she's not just lying? What if she's dangerous? Claire had always had moods. Sharp swings between warmth and distance. She could be dazzling one day, hollow the next. I told myself it was just the way she coped with a rough childhood, a father who drank, a mother who left. But I never really knew her past. Only the version she gave me. Back home, I tried to act normal. She was in the living room, legs curled under her, flipping through some old magazine she barely read. I watched her from the hallway, unseen. There was something haunted about the way she turned the pages, like her fingers moved on autopilot. She wasn't reading. She was hiding. Just like me. We were both actors in a play neither of us had written. That night, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was steady, her body warm against mine. But I couldn't feel her anymore. Not really. I kept seeing Jeremy Blake's face in the article, his scruffy beard, tired eyes, the way he stared at the camera like he already knew no one was coming to find him. The next morning, I took a sick day. Claire left before me, saying she was meeting an old coworker for brunch. She didn't say who. She never did. The moment her car pulled away, I went to work. I searched every drawer, every box, every dusty corner of our house. I didn't know what I was looking for, anything. A clue. A slip. A missing piece. In the guest room closet, tucked behind old linens and holiday wrapping paper, I found a shoebox. It was taped shut. I had to slice it open with a kitchen knife. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Most were of me and Claire, vacations, birthday parties, snapshots of us in grocery store parking lots and hotel balconies. But mixed in, almost buried, were others. Photos I didn't recognize. Claire and Jeremy. Laughing on a beach. Sitting under a tree. Her head on his shoulder. In one, he was holding her face in both hands, and she was looking at him like he was the only person who had ever really seen her. The timestamps told a story. 2 years' worth of pictures. Overlapping the first year of our relationship. I dropped the box. Something fell out. A small, silver key. It was unfamiliar. Not to our house. Not to the garage. Something else. It took me 2 hours to find the lock it fit. In the garage, behind a loose wall panel we never used, was an old cedar trunk. Dusty, nailed shut. The key opened a smaller inner padlock. Inside, I found a leather-bound journal. The first page had her handwriting. This isn't for anyone else. Not ever. I read the first few pages and stopped. I needed to sit down. Because on the fourth page, in uneven script, she had written, "I don't know how to stop loving both of them. But I know I can't keep doing this. One life will kill the other. Or me. Jeremy is starting to suspect. He asked me last night if there was someone else. I lied. And he saw it. Right in my face. He always sees it. I don't know what I'll do if he finds out everything." The entries went on. Pages and pages of confessions, of spiraling guilt, of emotional chaos. But no answers. The last dated entry was on March 11th. One day before Jeremy Blake disappeared. She wrote. "He said he wanted to talk tomorrow. That he knew. I told him not to come. I begged him. But he said if I didn't end it with James, he would. I can't let them meet. I can't. I don't know what he's capable of. I don't know what I'm capable of." I sat there for a long time, my fingers pressed against that final sentence. I don't know what I'm capable of. I didn't either. And I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. But then I heard the front door open. Claire was home early. And I hadn't put anything away. Part 5, Everything She Didn't Say. Her footsteps were soft, uncertain. She called out once, "James." But there was no urgency in her voice. Just a casual tone, like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just walked into a home where her secrets were wide open and breathing in the garage. I didn't answer. I stayed still, crouched beside the open trunk, my hands resting on the edge, the journal still open to that final page. The air felt close and metallic. I heard her footsteps come down the hall. Stop. Then pivot toward the garage. The door creaked open. She froze when she saw me. We locked eyes for the first time in what felt like days. Maybe weeks. She didn't say anything at first. Just stared. Then her gaze dropped to the journal, and I watched something flicker across her face, grief, maybe. Or defeat. "You went through my things," she said, quietly. I stood slowly. "So did you." She stepped inside, closed the door behind her with a soft click. We stood across from each other, a few feet of dusty concrete between us, but the distance felt infinite. "How long?" I asked. She swallowed. "You already know." "No. I want to hear you say it." She looked down at the floor. Her shoulders slumped. 2 years. While we were together. Yes. I nodded, numb. Was he before me? A little before, she said. And then, not. My voice was flat, barely a whisper. Why him? Claire looked at me then, really looked. Because he made me feel real. And you made me feel safe. I didn't know how to let go of either. I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't know how to fight with someone who spoke the truth like it was poison she had no choice but to swallow. I picked up the journal and held it out to her. She didn't take it. You said in here you didn't know what you were capable of, I said. Did you hurt him? She didn't flinch. But she didn't answer either. I took a step closer. Claire. Did you? Her lips parted, but the words caught somewhere inside her. No, she said, finally. I didn't lay a hand on him. I swear. Then where is he? I don't know. She sat down on the edge of an old workbench and put her head in her hands. The night he disappeared, we met. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. That I was staying with you. I didn't move. I just watched her unravel. He was angry. Quiet angry. The kind that builds. He said I owed him everything. That I'd wasted years of his life. That he'd tell you everything. Blow it all up. Her voice cracked. I begged him to let me handle it. He walked out. Got in his car. I haven't seen him since. Did you call the police? She looked up sharply. And say what? That my secret boyfriend disappeared after I told him I was cheating on him. I didn't think anyone would believe me. You didn't think I would. No, she said, softly. You were the one person I couldn't lose. I felt like I was standing in a room made of glass, and every word she said was a stone. I didn't kill him, she said again. But I lied. I lied every day. I watched you hold me while I broke. And I still lied. Something broke loose inside me then. Not rage, not even betrayal. Just an old, familiar ache. The one you get when you realize love doesn't always make someone honest. Or good. You should have told me. I couldn't. You should now. Claire looked at me, and for the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as the woman I'd loved. Not even as the one who'd broken me. But as someone lost in a world she built herself, brick by brick, lie by lie. I think he might have done something, she whispered. To himself. After I left. I kept checking for months. No calls. No sightings. It was like he disappeared to punish me. She leaned back against the wall, her voice barely audible. I still hear him sometimes. In dreams. Asking me why I let him believe there was still hope. Silence fell between us, thick and hollow. I looked down at the journal in my hand. Then back at her. You need to tell the police, I said. Her face hardened. And say what? That I broke 2 people and one of them vanished. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. She already knew. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling in the dark, trying to remember the first time I saw her. What she wore. How she smiled. And whether I'd ever actually known who she was. Around 3 in the morning, I heard her crying in the hallway. But I didn't get up. I couldn't. Because the next morning, I was going to drive to Havers Bay. And talk to Jeremy Blake's sister. Part 6, The Echo He Left Behind. The drive to Havers Bay felt different the second time. Colder. More deliberate. I kept one hand on the wheel, the other gripping the paper with her name on it, Lena Blake, Jeremy's sister. Her address was listed in an old public record I found after a few hours digging the night before. She lived just outside town, in a weather-worn house with green shutters and ivy choking the chimney. I parked a little ways up the road and walked to the porch, unsure what I was even going to say. The door opened before I knocked. You're him, aren't you? She asked. She had the same eyes as the photo of Jeremy, only sharper. More tired. I don't know what. You're the other one. I stood there, stunned. You knew. She crossed her arms. Jeremy told me. About Claire. About you. Everything. I nodded slowly, the words falling away from me. I didn't know about him until a few days ago. Then you were lucky, she said. He lived in hell long before he vanished. She let me inside. The house was modest, pictures of family on the walls, mostly old. Nothing recent. There was a folded blanket on the couch, and the smell of boiled coffee lingered in the air like it hadn't been fresh for hours. Lena motioned for me to sit. He loved her, she said. More than he should have. She used to call at all hours. Disappear. Reappear. She'd cry. He'd forgive her. It was like watching a man walk into the ocean every time she showed up. I looked down. He wanted to meet me. I know, she said. He told me he was done being a secret. Said he was going to make her choose for real. My voice was dry. Did he ever mention what he'd do if she didn't? Lena was quiet for a long time. He said he'd take everything from her. That she didn't deserve to be happy. He was unraveling. Fast. And Claire, she just kept feeding him hope. Then taking it away. There was something tight in my chest, something I hadn't named yet. Maybe guilt. Maybe recognition. Do you think he hurt himself? I asked. She looked at me, searching my face like it might hold the answer she didn't want to believe. I don't know, she said. But I know he's not the kind of man to just disappear. He would have called me. He always did. No matter how bad things got. She handed me something from the table beside her. A voicemail transcript, printed on old paper. Jeremy's voice. 1 minute. Dated March 12, 7:43 p.m. It's done. I told her what I had to say. She made her choice. She chose him. I can't keep doing this, Lena. I'm tired. So tired. Don't look for me, okay? Just, let me go. The line had gone dead after that. I read it again, then again. Trying to find something in it. Something more than despair. Lena leaned forward. If you're here because you think she knows more than she's saying. I agree. But you're not going to get the truth by asking. Claire lies like it's breathing. She hesitated. Unless you give her a reason not to. What kind of reason? Lena stood and walked to a cabinet. She pulled out an envelope, yellowed and creased. I found this a month after he went missing. It came to my mailbox with no return address. She handed it to me. Inside was a single photograph. Claire. On a park bench. Laughing. With me. Jeremy must have taken it. The image was grainy, shot from a distance. But the look on her face, it was unmistakable. She was happy. With me. And Jeremy had seen it. This was the last thing he ever sent me, Lena said. You think someone who wanted to disappear would take the time to send that? I shook my head slowly. No. I don't. The truth was sliding into place now. Uncomfortable, jagged pieces clicking together. Jeremy had made a choice. Or maybe someone made it for him. I drove home in silence. The sun was setting, casting long gold shadows over the road, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel confusion. I felt purpose. Claire was in the kitchen when I walked in. She turned, startled. I thought you had work. I didn't go. She stared at me, eyes narrowing. Where were you? I dropped the photo on the counter between us. She froze. Tell me the truth, Claire, I said. This time, all of it. Because I'm not leaving until I know what happened to Jeremy Blake. She reached out, fingers trembling. Then stopped. Her voice was a whisper. You don't want to know. Yes, I said, cold and steady. I do. She looked at the photo, then at me. And then she said 5 words I didn't expect. He didn't leave alone, James. Part 7, the night she split in two. For a moment, I didn't breathe. Those 5 words sat between us like a lit fuse. He didn't leave alone, James. Claire's hand hovered over the photo. She didn't touch it. Just stared at it the way someone stares at something that no longer belongs to them. Like it had been stolen from her. Or like it had stolen something from her. I kept my voice level. What does that mean? She sat down slowly at the edge of the kitchen stool. Her movements were fragile, like her bones had gone soft. Then she looked up at me with eyes I'd never seen before, eyes that had let go of pretending. It was raining that night, she said. You remember? That crazy storm in March. Trees down, streets flooded. Everyone stayed home. I nodded. I was supposed to meet him at the old trailhead in Havers Bay. Neutral ground. He didn't want to come to the house anymore. I didn't interrupt. Just listened. Carefully. Like I was tracing the edge of a wound I couldn't see. I parked down the hill, she continued. Told him we'd take a walk, talk it through. But when I got there, he wasn't alone. She glanced at me. Her throat tightened. There was a woman with him. That caught me off guard. Who? I don't know. She never said her name. But she was cold. Controlled. Jeremy said she was a friend of his. That she helped people disappear. Start over. People who wanted out. I frowned. Out of what? Claire gave a hollow laugh. Their lives. Their marriages. Their debts. Everything. He said she could erase him. I stood there, trying to process it. He planned to vanish. He said he didn't have a choice. That if he stayed, he'd destroy me. Or himself. And the woman? She watched me the whole time. Like she was measuring me. Like she already knew who I was. Claire folded her hands in front of her. Jeremy asked me one last time. If I'd leave you. If I'd run away with him. He was trembling. I think part of him knew the answer. She looked down at the floor. I told him no. There was a long silence. And then? I asked. He didn't say a word. Just turned to the woman. She nodded once. That was it. They walked into the woods. I stood there for 10 minutes after they disappeared, waiting to hear something. Anything. But all I heard was rain. She looked at me. I don't know where they went. I don't even know her name. I've never seen either of them again. It was too strange to believe. And yet, it explained everything. The sudden disappearance. The clean break. No body. No calls. No sightings. He'd orchestrated his own vanishing. With help. You should have told someone, I said quietly. The police. Me. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid it wasn't real. Afraid he was dead. That she'd killed him, and I'd helped. And if I came clean, I'd go down with them. I exhaled slowly, dragging a hand over my face. There's more, Claire said. Of course there was. She got up, crossed to her purse, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to me like it weighed more than she could bear. It was another letter. Dated just a week ago. There was no address. Just a single sentence in tight, mechanical handwriting. I know you kept the journal. Burn it. Or I will. No name. But I knew who it was from. The woman. The one who helped him disappear. I looked at Claire. Why didn't you tell me about this? Because you already had one foot out the door, she said, her voice suddenly raw. And I thought if I gave you more reason to run, you wouldn't just walk, you'd never look back. She stepped toward me. Close enough that I could smell her perfume, faint now, like a ghost of who she used to be. I don't know where Jeremy is, she said. But someone out there knows everything. Someone who doesn't want the truth getting out. I stared at the letter in my hand. My thoughts reeled, jumping to questions I wasn't ready to ask out loud. Had Jeremy really disappeared by choice? Or had this woman, this cleaner, this fixer, decided for him? And why was Claire still being watched? Still being threatened? You need to go to the police, I said. She shook her head. And say what? That my ex vanished with a shadow and now I get anonymous death threats. That I lied to my boyfriend, cheated on him, and maybe helped a man erase himself. She stepped back. No one's going to believe me. But they might believe you. I narrowed my eyes. Why me? Because you're the only person left who hasn't completely disappeared. I turned the paper over in my hand, staring at the sharp, sterile handwriting. There was no return address, no signature. Nothing traceable. Until I remembered something. In Claire's journal, she described the woman in detail. Her clothes. Her voice. Even the make and model of the car she drove away in that night. I still had the journal. Which meant I had a place to start. I just didn't know what I'd find when I followed it. But I was going to follow it anyway. Because now I wasn't just trying to understand Claire. I was trying to figure out if I was next. Part 8, The Room with No Windows. It took me 3 days to find the car. Claire had written in her journal, silver Volvo station wagon. Massachusetts plate, partial, 48D. She didn't remember the full number. Said it was raining too hard, too dark. But she remembered the feel of the tires crunching gravel as the woman drove away. The way the taillights disappeared like a vanishing act. I drove to Havers Bay twice more. Sat in parking lots. Watched traffic on side streets. Checked security camera footage at a gas station off Route 3 by pretending I was a cop. Nothing. Then I got lucky. A repair shop. Quiet. Off the highway. I almost didn't see it. The Volvo was parked behind the building, covered in dust, front tire low. Same shape. Same plate. 48D 23N. I waited for hours. No one came for it. The next morning, I asked around. The mechanic said it was dropped off months ago. Woman in her 40s. No ID. Paid in cash. Never picked it up. Said she was moving on. That was the phrase that stuck in my head. Moving on. The mechanic gave me the name of the tow service that brought it in. From a cabin 20 minutes into the woods, northeast of town. He drew me a rough map on the back of a receipt. I drove there before I could talk myself out of it. The road narrowed into gravel, then dirt. Then barely more than a path. The cabin was small, dark, and silent. 1 story. Windows blacked out with sheets of tin. The air was dead still. I parked at a distance and walked the rest of the way in. I should have called the police. Instead, I turned the doorknob. It was unlocked. The air inside was stale and cold. The place had been abandoned, but not ransacked. Carefully emptied. No dishes, no clothes. Just dust and echoes. The only sign of life was a table in the center of the room, a single chair, and a black file folder sitting on top. I opened it. Inside were documents. Names. Dates. Descriptions. Notes in that same clean, clipped handwriting. The woman's. Every name had one thing in common: they were people who had vanished. Some reported. Some not. Some probably still considered dead. And then, there it was. Jeremy Blake. His page was short. Risk of escalation. Severe emotional disturbance. Conflict with subject, Ch. Claire Hensley. Subject refused psychiatric support. Recommended course, total severance. Relocation initiated March 12. Memory risk mitigated. No further contact authorized. Below that, a final line, underlined in red. Attachment compromised operational stability. I stood there for a long time. Digesting every word. Claire hadn't lied. Not about that. Jeremy had chosen to vanish. But not freely. Not sanely. He was broken, and someone helped him disappear because the alternative might have been worse. I turned the page. The last document was blank except for one sentence. Ch has not destroyed the journal. If discovered, containment will be required. Containment. That word hit me like a hammer. I left everything where I found it and drove straight home, never once looking in the rearview mirror, though every nerve in me screamed that I should. Claire was on the couch when I walked in. She looked up, startled by the slam of the door, and stood slowly. "You found something," she said. I nodded. "I know what happened to Jeremy. I know someone made it happen. And I know they're still watching." She didn't speak. "They think you're a liability," I said. "And they know you kept the journal." "I burned it," she said. My heart stuttered. "When?" "Yesterday," she whispered. "After you left. I didn't want you to. But I had to. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because I saw the terror in her eyes. And beneath it, something worse, surrender." We sat in silence for a long time. Then she turned to me and said something I'll never forget. "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer right away. Because love, in that moment, was too small a word for what I felt. It was grief. Rage. Pity. Wonder. And something else, too, the faintest trace of what had once been hope. "I don't know," I said. She nodded, like she'd expected that. "I'll go," she whispered. "Tonight." "No," I said. "You won't." She looked up sharply. "You won't run," I said. "Because that's what they want. That's how this works. They make people disappear, physically, emotionally, legally, and they hope no one asks why." I reached into my jacket and pulled out the only page I had taken from the file. Jeremy's. "I'm not letting this get buried." "Then what do we do?" she asked, voice barely above a breath. I met her eyes. "We tell the truth. To someone who can't be erased." And that night, for the first time in weeks, we stayed awake together. Not as lovers. Not as conspirators. But as two people trying to crawl back into the light. We made a copy of the file. We sent it, anonymously, to a journalist Claire had once trusted. Someone with enough distance to be safe, and enough bite to ask questions that wouldn't be silenced. We don't know what will happen next. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But we're still here. Still choosing not to disappear. Even if we now live in a world where people do.